So most of you watching this video have already heard of carbohydrates. You probably know it comes from food, but where the debate lies is, are they good for us? There are those who say carbohydrates are horrible, don't eat them, or eat very, very little. And then there's others who say, no, you have to, you need them. In fact, you should be eating lots of them. How do you know which argument to believe? What should your evidence argument be when it comes to the question, are carbohydrates good for us? Are they useful to our bodies?
Let's do this right now.
Okay, so to understand carbohydrates, first I want to make sure everyone knows what a molecule is, which is a group of atoms bonded together that act as the building blocks for all things living and not living. Every molecule has its own bonding properties that determine which other types of molecules that it can be combined with and which ones that it cannot. Now, there are two types of molecules. There are monomers, which is a single molecule. Mono means one, single. And it's a single molecule that can be bonded to other similar molecules to form what's known as a polymer. A polymer is the other kind of molecule, which is a larger macromolecule that has a molecular structure consisting of a large number of other molecules. So a polymer is a collection, a combination, a chain of many monomers. Many molecules, especially in living things, are able to combine to form living organisms because of carbon. Carbon is referred to as the building block of life because carbon allows many other molecules to bond together to form structures that otherwise would never form together if carbon wasn't there to bind them all together. Carbohydrates are a combination of course, carbon and also two other elements, oxygen and hydrogen. And when you combine two hydrogen and one oxygen molecule, you get water. And when you combine water with carbon, you get a carbohydrate. We're going to talk more about that water molecule a little bit later. So carbohydrates are a macromolecule. That means they're a really big molecule formed of many little molecules, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. And carbohydrates' function is that when they're broken down inside the body of a living organism that consumes, that eats them, they are broken down into energy. They release energy in the form of sugar, which your body can use as fuel for all of your body's processes. Now, your body also has to work very hard to make sure you have the right balance of sugar in your blood. Even though it's energy, you don't want to be over full, just as you don't want to have too little. But carbohydrates is your main supply of energy. In addition to energy, there are many organisms, such as plants, that will use various carbohydrates, sugars, to form their structure, like their branches or their tree trunks. Carbohydrates can be broken down into three categories of sugars because carbohydrates are forms of sugar, but there's different categories, including the first one, which is a monosaccharide. This is the simplest form of sugar, the simplest form of carbohydrates. Monosaccharides are carbohydrates that contain a single sugar monomer, for example, glucose or fructose. Glucose is the most abundant source of chemical energy in the living world. Our central nervous system is highly dependent on glucose for the energy to keep it active, to keep it working. Ribose and deoxyribose are also monosaccharides, which are used to construct your DNA, which you're going to learn about in the next unit. For now, all you need to know about DNA is it is the code that makes you who you are, makes you unique. Now, there are two types of chemical reactions that can result in monosaccharides. One of them is when the monosaccharide is in a long chain shape If you add water to it, it will curl into a ring. Only when it is in a ring can it connect to other monosaccharides to make polymers. The other reaction that can result in a monosaccharide is if you already have a chain of monosaccharides and you add even more water, and those extra water molecules will then break the chains, changing a polymer back into a bunch of individual monomers. Disaccharides are two monosaccharides that have been joined together. When you have two monosaccharides and only two to form a disaccharide, you can get sugars such as sucrose or lactose, which again only have two monosaccharides in them. And the function of disaccharides is mostly storing energy for later in your body or to transport energy. So for example, your body might have two glucose monosaccharides form a disaccharide so that it can't be broken down and instead be transported to a part of your body that needs the energy and then can be broken down into monomers through hydrolysis. Because only when it's broken down into monomers can your body access the energy. So your body needs that disaccharide form so it can move the energy around without it breaking down and being consumed before it gets to its important location. And the chemical reaction that allows two monosaccharides to form together is called dehydration, because a water molecule has been removed from two monomers, allowing them to connect and form a disaccharide. The most common form of disaccharides in nature would be table sugar. And the final class of sugar is the polysaccharide. This is a chain of monosaccharides that has at least three or more. It could have many, many more. Examples of polysaccharides include starch, glycogen, and cellulose, and many more examples of sugars that are made of long chains of monosaccharides or even disaccharides. Cellulose is probably one of the more common types of polysaccharide. That's the kind of sugar that's used to make trunks and branches and that hard exterior, that hard outside structure of most plants. And again, very similar to disaccharides, the chemical reaction that's required to create a polysaccharide is dehydration, which is the removal of a water molecule. And that's all there is to know about carbohydrates for the moment. If you have any questions, let me know in class. Thank you.